Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the parliament, alright? And these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like starting with the introduction part, organization of parliament, the composition of two houses, the system of elections to Lok Sabha, the duration of two houses, the membership of parliament, the presiding officers of parliament, the leaders in parliament, the sessions of parliament, the devices of parliamentary proceedings, the legislative procedure in parliament, the joint sitting of two houses, the budget in parliament, the multifunction role of parliament, the ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, the position of Rajya Sabha, the parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of the parliament. Okay, so basically you can say that these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. And if we talk about the topics that we have covered, so we have done with the introduction part, organization of parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions of parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings. Okay, these are the topics that we have covered. And if we talk about the topics on which we have been discussing is the legislative procedure in the parliament. Okay, this is the topic on which we have been discussing. And if we talk about the topics that are remaining, so the remaining topics are the joint sitting of two houses, budget in parliament, multifunction role of parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, the position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of the parliament. Okay, so this is the picture that we have created so far. So basically we will start from where we had left in the previous lecture. So in the previous lecture, we had done with the comparison of ordinary bills versus money bills. Okay, we had discussed like how the legislative procedure and powers of the houses in the cases of ordinary bills differs with the money bills. Okay, so I hope that you had revised the previous one in the well enough manner before you have come for this lecture. As many times I have reminded you, that is for your own benefit. Okay, so here you can say this is the financial bill. Financial bill 1. Okay, so if we talk about it, a financial bill 1 is a bill that contains not only any or all the matters mentioned in Article 110, but also other matters of general legislation. And if we talk about the financial bills 1's own article, so its own article is Article 117(1). Okay, so basically here you can say the financial bill first is not only contains the all matters of Article 10, Article 11010, which stands for the money bill, but any other matters of general legislation in the terms of finance. Okay, so for instance, a bill that contains a borrowing clause but does not exclusively deal with the borrowings. Okay, like we had seen, borrowings is the part of money bill. Okay, and if there is any bill which is containing the borrowing clause, but it is not entirely and exclusively revolving around the borrowing, then this would be a part of financial bill 1. Okay, in two respects, a financial bill first is similar to a money bill. Like the first case is this, both of them can be introduced in the Lok Sabha and not in the Rajya Sabha. It means the introductory house is fixed. Okay, second is both of them can be introduced only on the recommendations of the president. It means the prior permission of president is required. Okay. So basically these two things makes it similar to a money bill. Okay. It could only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. Okay. And the president's prior recommendation is required. In all other aspects, a financial bill first is governed by the same legislative procedure applicable to an ordinary bill. It means that the exclusive, or you can say the specialized legislative procedure prescribed for money bill is not applicable to financial. Okay. So remember this thing. And we can say the similarity in the financial bill and the money bills comes from two provisions. The first provision is the introductory house is fixed. Like the Lok Sabha. Second is president's prior recommendation is required. Okay. So this is the case of establishing a similarity. But why it differs? Because its legislative procedure is not specialized like in the case of money bill, but moreover similar towards the ordinary bills. Okay. So remember these points. Hence, it can be either rejected or amended by the Rajya Sabha, except that an amendment other than for reduction or abolition of a tax cannot be moved in either house without the recommendation of the president. Therefore, recommendation of president is not required for moving an amendment making provision for the reduction or abolition of tax. Okay, it means that if any amendment is required to be made in the financial bill, okay, and we know the financial bill deals with the expenditure and revenue part. All right. So any recommendations could be granted to the bill by the Rajya Sabha also, but there is one condition. It means that only in the cases of reduction of tax or tax rates. Second, only in abolition of tax or tax rates. Only in these two conditions, the president's prior recommendation is not required. Okay. And any case other than these two cases, no amendment could be made without the president's prior recommendation. Okay. In case of disagreement between the two houses over such a bill, the president can summon a joint sitting of two houses to resolve the deadlock because legislative procedure is very much similar to the ordinary bill. And we know in the ordinary bill, the process of joint sitting is available. So similar process would be available in the case of financial bill also. Like if there is any deadlock situation between the two houses because of the rejection, amendment, or you can say withholding the bill for a long duration. Okay, if any of these cases are there, so basically that would be considered as a deadlock. And so this, the joint sitting would be called out by the president and will be presided over by the speaker of Lok Sabha. Okay. And then remember, when the bill is presented to the president, okay, he can either give his assent to the bill or withhold his assent to the bill or return the bill for reconsideration of the houses. It means that all powers of approving, rejecting, or you can say and standing for reconsideration available for president also. Okay, it means that the president, like the ordinary bill, could approve the bill, could reject the bill, and even could send the bill for the reconsideration. Okay, and we know in the cases of money bill, only the two things could be done, whether to approve the bill or reject the bill. Only these two conditions and only these two powers applicable to the president. Okay, because the president could not resend the bill for the reconsideration. After the financial bill 1, now we have the financial bill 2. Okay, and if we talk about the article of financial bill 2nd, so it is having the article 1173. Okay, so basically we can say the financial bill 2nd contains provisions involving expenditure from the consolidated fund of India. Okay, but does not include any matters mentioned in article 110. Okay, so if we take this into deeper form, so we had seen, like basically if we talk about the money bill, so we know the money bill having the seven conditions to fulfill. Okay, then only the bill would be declared as a money bill, and there are chances like either all conditions or any of them. Okay, either all conditions or any of them is to be mentioned in the bill, then the bill will be declared as a money bill by the speaker. Okay, and if we take it further, so we know out of this seven condition, there was one condition which was withdrawing or declaring expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India and Contingency Fund of India. Okay, so that was also including the money bill. Okay, so here what we have seen, like the money bill 2nd contains the provision involving expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India. It means that whatsoever the expenditure the government is going to do with the consolidated fund, okay, that is mentioned in the Financial bill second. Okay, but these provisions has nothing to do with the Article 110's provision, which stands for the money bill. Okay, so that makes the financial bill second different from the money bill. It is treated as an ordinary bill and in all respects as it is governed by the same legislative procedure which is applicable to an ordinary. It means special legislative procedure is not even applicable in financial bill second. Okay, because it is regarding as an ordinary bill. The only special feature of this bill is that it cannot be passed by either House of Parliament until the President has recommended to the House the consideration of the bill. Okay, it means that this is the special or exclusive condition given here. Okay, it means that the bill cannot be passed by either of the House of Parliament, like whether the houses of Lok Sabha, okay, whether the houses of Rajya Sabha. All right, no house could pass it until or unless the president has recommended to that house the consideration of the bill. It means to put the bill for voting. And the financial bill second can be introduced in either house parliament and recommendation of the president is not necessary for its introduction. Why? Because it is in all respects treating as an ordinary bill. All right. So the provisions that are applicable to the ordinary bill also applicable to the financial bill second. In other words, the recommendation of the president is not required at the introduction stage, but required at the constitution stage. Okay, like we know, there are 5 stages. All right. So at the first stage, when the bill is to only introduced, let us write down the stages so that we would understand it better. Stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is the introduction stage. This is the examination stage. This is the debating and voting stage. This is the bill in other house stage. And this is president consent of final stage. All right. So basically here are the 5 stages. So basically if we talk about the first stage, like the introduction stage, okay, So at that stage, no prior precedent recommendation or consent is required. It means that without the precedent recommendation or consent, the bill could be introduced in the House. Okay. And if we talk about the second stage, stage 3, okay, that stage stands for the debating and the voting stage. So basically, at that stage, presidents prior constitution required, or you can say prior recommendations required for which, or consideration by the houses. Okay. So at first stage, the prior precedent recommendation is not required, but at the third stage, it is required and applicable. Okay. This is the thing. Thereafter, we can say it can be either rejected or amended by either house of the parliament. Okay. So we can say houses have equal powers in terms of legislative procedure in the cases of financial bill second. Okay. In case of disagreement between the two houses over such a bill, the president can summon the joint sitting of the two houses to resolve the deadlock, like the ordinary case. When the bill is presented to the president, he can either give his assent to the bill or withhold his assent to the bill or return the bill for the reconsideration of the houses. It means all the presidential powers regarding the ordinary bill also available in financial bill second. Okay. Thereafter, the joint sitting. Okay. So here we have finished the legislative procedure in the parliament. Now we are going to talk about the joint sitting of two houses. Okay. So if we talk about this, so joint sitting is an extraordinary machinery provided by the constitution to resolve a deadlock between the two houses over the passage of the bill. Like as we had discussed, if any bill is required to be in the statute book of India, statute book of India, we know the bill is required to pass by both the houses, right? That is necessary. Okay. So basically, and here we have seen the three conditions. Okay. Like the first condition is that if the bill was rejected by the second house, the second condition is that if the second house withholds the bill for a longer duration, the third condition is that if the second house, you can say, holds his assent and not responding to the bill. So these are the several conditions. Okay. So basically, if we take it further, so we can say a deadlock is deemed to have taken place under any of the following three situations. after a bill has been passed by one house and transmitted to the other house. It means that the deadlock generally happens at the fourth stage. Okay, because fourth stage is the stage when the bill is in other house. Because in rest of the stages, the bill is already in the same house. Okay, like introduction, like the scrutiny, like the debating and voting. So basically, on that time, the bill is on the same house. But if we talk about the fourth stage, so basically the bill has been transferred from the one house to the another house. So whatsoever the deadlock would be arrived in such a case, that would be arrived even after this. Okay, so at fourth stage, generally the deadlock situation arises, and the reasons are: the first is if the bill is rejected by the other house. It means that suppose the house one had passed the bill and then transmitted it to the second house, but in the second house the bill got rejected. First case. Second, if the house have finally disagreed as to the amendments to be made in the bill, it means the first house sent the bill with the provisions X, Y, Z. Thereafter, the second house said, we must amend the X and Z provisions. Okay. So if the originated house from where the bill was originated, they rejected and they purpose the provision should be made as it is, then this would be consideration of deadlock session. Okay. This would be a deadlock. Third, if more than 6 months have elapsed from the date of receipt of the bill by other house without the bill is passed by it. Okay, it means that the house is not responding to the bill and generally they are holding the bill and the tenure of 6 years have been passed. So in any of the three conditions, if any of these three conditions are there, so basically these conditions are, you can say, termed as a deadlock situation. Okay. And whenever these deadlock situations would be there, so what will happen? The joint sitting would be called off by the president. Okay. And as we had discussed, the provision we had borrowed it from the Australian Constitution, right? We had borrowed this provision from the Australian Constitution. Okay. And the presiding officer is the Speaker of the House, or you can say Speaker of the Lok Sabha would be the presiding officer during the joint sittings. All right. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we would continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready in the other lecture. So with this note, let's end this lecture. And what we say thank you.